Hello. Thank you for staying. This will be our last session, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for supporting us for the festival. And I would like to present to you our the speaker for the final session, which is Mr. Michael Muller. Michael is a legendary photographer. He's been working with a lot of production film studios and been working on photo shoots for Marvel film and portrait for a lot of celebrities in Hollywood. And his personal interest is shooting sea animals, right? He's been working on a VR film called Into the Now, and it's now part of the selection for this festival. And I would like all of you to welcome Mr. Michael Muller. Hello.
Hello.
I think a lot of I'm not sure about the people from the West. I think a lot of people in the Chinese community may not that well about you, but can you maybe also talk a little bit about your previous work? I just mentioned very briefly, so maybe you can talk a little bit more about your previous career.
I've been a photographer for 33 years. I started shooting snowboarding and rock and roll in the 80s when I was like 15, and lied my way to my laminates to get into the concerts till the real photographer showed up at Paul McCartney at Cal Berkeley. The gig was up, but moved to Los Angeles when I was 19, and this was before the internet and when we were all still shooting film, and before publicists, and all the young actors would hang out at this bar. All the underage actors would hang out at the Formosa Cafe, and I'd go take pictures of people and my actor friends, and that went on to become do large films, and shot a lot of bands. And I've pretty much shot, athletes, everyone, yeah, pretty much in the 30 years, you know. Last week I shot the new Captain Marvel. Next week I'm going to be in Guatemala with the UN, and then in 2 weeks I'll be doing Spider-Man. So that's sort of like the gamut, and then somewhere in there I'll try to get myself underwater.
New Spider-Man?
The new Spider-Man.
Oh, very excited.
I gotta say, the Captain Marvel's, yeah, she's gonna kick some butt.
Nice.
Save all those Avengers.
And also you've been shooting a lot of like celebrities portraits, and also like I saw some of the like music albums. It's been shot by you as well, like Rihanna.
Yeah, Rihanna and Red Hot Chili Peppers and Morrissey and Billy Idol, and then Green Day. I mean, just a lot of music.
Right. But how did you find
Lionel Richie?
Lionel Richie. That's a good one, classic one. How did you find about VR? I mean, well, VR is obviously it's come out pretty late, just a couple of years, and I think a lot of production houses in Hollywood didn't. Well, they've been looking into that, but not paid that much of attention to it in terms of production. But they're very obviously they're very interested in looking into latest technologies. And but as a photographer, how did you start it?
It was the universe, really. I was the only VR I'd seen is it looked like a what do they call it? My daughter's had, it was like cardboard, but maybe it was plastic or something, and he put a phone in, and it wasn't really VR. And 2 years ago, on the 4th of July, I was flying to Antigua, and I was sitting at LAX, and I said to myself, VR, that's the future. Where do people want to explore? Space. NASA owns that. And I said, underwater. I've got a claim to that. And I picked up the phone, and I called my media company, and I said, I want to meet the top 5 VR production companies, and I want to do the Blue Planet of VR, but I want to own it. I don't want to do it for Nat Geo or BBC or Discovery. And I'll call you in 3 weeks. And I left, and I came back, and he said, they all want to meet you. I said, oh, that means it's a good idea. And I, fortunately, with my work in the photography world and the entertainment, you know, in Hollywood and Los Angeles, I have a lot of resources. So I started picking up the phone. I went to Fox VR's lab and met with them, and just got really lucky to stumble across Michael at Radiant, and started learning about VR just like I learned photography. I never went to school. I was self-taught, and I sort of took the same approach with VR. And went out and made a proof of concept, if you want to call it, a sizzle. And actually, 2 days after I got home and started making the calls to the production company, Stanford University, the head of neurology, called me for my shark work. And he said, you know, were you scared of sharks? And I said, yeah, I was petrified. And he said, now you swim with great whites with no cage, nothing, just your camera? And I said, yes. And he said, well, you have done in the neurology world like free climbing of rewiring your head, and we want to fly you up here because we want to use VR technology to help people with PTSD and anxiety. And I'm like, I'm starting a VR project, and I suffer from some of those things. And I ended up flying up, and we partnered up, and we've been doing this project together, and it's amazing to see what they're doing up there in the medical world. The last panel was talking about that, and for me, I'm more excited with education, the education abilities with VR, almost more than the entertainment.
Education is a huge space, and I think I think they definitely do need a lot of immersive technology in order to bring the learning experience to the next stage. But before we go into that, I would like to share a video with you guys, especially for those of you who haven't gone into the exhibition floor to see the actual work. So we have 1 minute clip from Muller's film Into the Now. Can you? Thank you. The first time I saw this piece was actually back in New York, Tribeca Film Festival, and the second I come out of the experience, I just feel it moved me so much, and especially I learned there's one thing that I feel very interested in, is that I didn't know that you can actually just to touch the sharks and just put it off away. I never thought that you could do that. But how do you? What was the first time you actually ever shoot great white without any protection? This is something that
without any protection. The first time was in the cage. The first time I saw, I was, like I said, scared shitless of sharks. I surf, so Jaws, the movie, the combination of it all, a lot of fear. And I said to my wife, I was like, I want to see a great white. I'm going to go shoot a great white shark. I need to see a great white shark. I got to see a great white shark. And she got me a trip for my birthday. And I went the next morning and collected and went out to Guadalupe Island. It's an 18-hour boat ride to this volcano that shoots out in the middle of the Pacific. And there's 200 great whites that circle it. I was the first person in the cage at 6 in the morning. And I remember it like it was yesterday. The shark came out of the darkness, swam by, we locked eyes. And it changed my life. It really did. I was hanging out of the cage on that trip. And then was in the Galapagos a year later, 10 months later, and that's when I really had a shift in my consciousness, because I have 3 daughters, and I was very naive going on this trip of what was happening to our planet. I didn't know about the 100 million sharks being killed every year. I didn't know the Great Barrier Reef was 60% dead, or at the time 50. Didn't know there was a piece of plastic the size of Texas in between the Pacific Ocean and Hawaii. All these things I didn't know. And I sat on this boat at night and I said, I don't think my daughters are going to see some of these things. And I've sold billions in movie posters, and I've sold this and this. I'm going to use my gift, if I can, to sort of specifically try to help this one animal, sharks being the case, and proceeded to do 34 self-funded expeditions. And I brought film crew with me, and I invented lights, the most powerful underwater strobe lights. So I sort of did everything I could do with photography. I documented it, but showing you guys a moment with us with a shark is not the same as you being there. It's just not. And even on a TV screen, you can't really quantify. So when the thought of VR, I was like, now wait, I can take you with me there. And if that's a game changer. So I was sort of putting the shark project almost on hold and was going to start working on another animal. But when VR came along, I put that other animal on hold and jumped straight into VR and went and raised funding and created some cameras with some guys that allowed what I wanted to do, and then spent the next year and a half flying all over the world with 50 Pelican cases and a small crew to capture it all.
I think, yeah, the powerful thing about VR is the presence. You bring someone to a place that you want him to be, and especially when you think about this kind of action to bring someone to some place can actually really change people's mind. I remember you told me that obviously your family is not worried about your being on the water.
They actually come with me. My 3 daughters, and my daughters have done. My eldest, my 13-year-old, has done 3 great white expeditions, and my twins that are about to turn 11 have done 1. And that meant me taking my wife first. And she cried the whole way on the boat, thinking she was the most irresponsible mother and she was going to get killed by the shark and all of it. And on the second dive, she was on top of the cage, and I swear to God, I thought she was going to jump off and swim away with the animal. That's how fast you get rewired. Yeah, you change when you see them. I mean, on Shark Week and stuff, you see you only see one side of them, the side they want to show you that pushes the fear. Once you see what I've taken you when you're down at 30 feet, they're like puppies. They're just cruising around, and we are able to interact with them, and there's nothing like it to be face to face with this predator that's millions of years of perfection of really a killing machine. Yeah, this is, I think, like 99% of the population would not be able to really go there, right? Yeah. No. And obviously, the film you've been working with TSA. Is it TSA? RSA. RSA. I'm sorry, RSA film. How do you feel about working with them? Because I think the piece is also executively produced by Ridley Scott, and also supported by Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation to protect the wild raise awareness and the Shark and Ray Fund that they have. I was really blessed to work with amazing, Academy Award-winning editors, composers, and very, very talented people that I was very blessed to, that were eager. What I find in Hollywood is that the writers and the editors and the composers, they're all they're very excited about working in this space, and they haven't had many opportunities, so they're like, I don't care what the rate is or whatever, I just want to do it. Which is really exciting, because I know if I was bringing them a traditional project, I wouldn't get in the front door, Yeah, sure.
I do think a lot of people now from traditional media, they're starting to look into VR and find something interesting. I know quite a few that have been experimenting with new media, like Elijah Wood, or I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt has been working on that too. Each person have different kind of perspective on what kind of projects they wanted to do. And for Into the Now, it's kind of like a documentary. and whether it's and how do you feel about this piece, and what plans do you have for the work that you've been doing, or the projects you wanted to do in the near future, especially you wanted to put that into a series as well?
Well, to give you, I guess, to talk some tech terms, because I hear so much up here, which I had to go take a break and watch Atomic Blonde to decompress all the data that was coming at me earlier. But this blew my mind. In 18 years of shooting with a Phase 1 80 megapixel largest camera you can get, I have 260 terabytes of an archive that I have to copy, of course, every year and a half. And in the 9 months of making this project, we shot 1.2 petabytes of data, of motion. I mean, it was mind-boggling, the amount.
Gigantic.
It was a behemoth project, and when we decided to take it to the festival route and make one piece as sort of a sales tool, which is what you've seen Into the Now, what excites me more is to dig back in. I sat with the editors and watched every stitch of VR that we shot, and it took me about 2.5 weeks, 12 hours a day watching the monitor, and I pulled, I think, 18 hours of like what I thought were the best clips, and that's still a behemoth of time. But I look forward to getting back in the editing bay and cutting the other films that I have in my mind that I want to put out there, and then I'm continuing going on these expeditions, so I know that we'll get more. But education to me, I'm going back. The first thing I'm going to do is take the 3-minute piece and cut full. Probably, I'm thinking like 5th, 6th grade education, curriculum for like science and biology, and bring it to, I've been talking with like the head of Google Education, and they have daydreams in there, but they, like my kids' school, they have 35 VR headsets in their class, but they can't play any video on them. They've only used them twice. So, I've heard content up here, but finding a way for these kids and how to scale out, the headsets and get them in, especially into inner city kids. My kids are blessed to go to a private school, but I know they must not have them in, public schools, and definitely not in the inner city schools. And finding people that have a passion for that education, which there's some amazing philanthropists out there, and hopefully putting a group together that can start getting these, hardware into schools and getting amazing content made for. Because when I see kids take off the film I made, it's so exciting to watch their reaction. It's exhilarating.
I've seen a couple of videos, especially I think the couple of companies in China, and also of course in US, they're been working on bringing the experiences to schools, right? I've seen quite a few experiences that are like space. Basically, you have like a tour in the solar system, or even Milky Way galaxies, and there's also like underwater experiences too. But this is the first piece I've ever seen that are like shot real, like live action, and it actually makes me into a kid again. I just feel, wow, I've never saw that. Well, Qingdao is this coastal city, so we have like aquarium and facilities allow you to see some sea animals, but like great shark and huge like whales is just not possible for you to see. So I think to bring the experiences to kids is gonna trigger a lot of their creativity and curiosity for their future, for their lives. I think that's super important.
It's crucial. We are at a really pivotal point on our planet with climate change. I know we all hear about it on the news, with the pollution, with overfishing, with the amount of people we have. Our populations are growing, and the resources we have, fossil fuels. I mean, it goes on and on and on. I think this next generation is crucial. What we're leaving them with, and tools to give them. I definitely made a very conscious decision. I didn't want to make a negative piece that makes you feel bad when you take the headset off. I want to instill hope. I went to the Galapagos 11 years ago, and I went there 4 or 5 months ago, and I saw more animals 5 months ago than I saw 11 years ago, and that gave me a lot of hope. But that's a place that has been doing a lot of work to keep that, to keep what they have in their oceans. So it's a combination of government and legislation and enforcement, and then awareness, and showing this next generation and our own as well what we still have out there.
Right. So obviously we finished the first piece into the now, and you also have plans for serialize it. And in terms of bringing more experiences to the kids, to the next generation like educational system, what do you have in plan for the future? The next maybe a couple of months or years?
I'm planning for
it's too hard
like
to
a week from now. I'm not really thinking too much further, but I'm going back out in September with a lot of scientists from Stanford. They're about to publish some stuff that's really amazing. The results they're getting in the labs, reduction in stress, specifically with our last panel, you talked about mental illness in the United States. We've had a lot of recent deaths due to mental illness, and it's a hot news topic. And the education, like I said, putting that together, and then you were a kid watching it. I was a kid making it. This younger generation, and there's probably a lot of you that are younger, weren't tied down with just a camera. This new technology, this new medium is so exciting. I mean, I felt like a 15-year-old making it because I had to learn everything. It was fresh. It was new. I had to be like, oh, how do I shoot that? I can't shoot it like I've been shooting everything for 32 years because I'm in it. How do you have to make yourself part of the story or plan to take yourself out of the story. And you have to think about all of those things that I never had to think about before. So it's exciting for me, and I hope everyone in your audience has the same thrill with this medium. To be at the birth of a new medium, how many times does that happen? And not too often.
Yeah, I think it's every 10 years or so we'll get the opportunity to really taking part in the process of creating a new medium. I think the time is running out, and so the last thing. I mean, obviously you're in a tour of exhibiting the pieces. Will you bring that piece to distribution platforms so more people can get to see it?
Yes, 100%. We're in discussions in the United States, and this is as well as your country. I'm more excited about your country than our country because you guys have embraced this technology much faster than us. But yeah, you don't want to create something and have no one see it. So the whole goal is to get it out there, and we are figuring out the best route for our IP to put out.
Yeah. We hope that we'll be able to have more opportunity to showcase your work, to bring the experiences to more Chinese consumers and audience.
We will, and you've put together an amazing festival. I mean, the lineup of speakers you've had is top notch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. So this will conclude our festival. Unfortunately, I'm so sad to say this, but thank you so much for coming, and we had very, very exciting and interesting time, a couple of days, and there was some problem with the screening because of the rain today, so we wouldn't be able to show more work to you guys, but I hope that we could do more exhibitions and showcase in the next few months, so you will be able to see more work. Thank you once again for coming over to Sandbox Immersive Festival First Edition.